I really gotta, I need to like, I don't know. I gotta figure out how to say these names because this is really embarrassing. Like, really, really embarrassing. Hey friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Adanna, and on this channel we talk about all things stories and self-care. So books that we love, books that we want to read, authors that we love, and self-care. If you're interested in that sort of content and you haven't done so already, definitely subscribe down below and hit the notification bell so that you're notified of every single time that I upload. Today I'll be reviewing one of the breakout debuts of 2020, Raybearer. It's the first in a book series and the first book from Jordan Ifueko. It's a YA fantasy, and I came across this book from Pretty Bookish on Instagram, and since I was able to get a copy of it from my library, I said, you know what, why not go ahead and read it. I just finished it and I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you. So Tarasi, which is our main character, has always longed for the warmth of a family. She was raised in isolation by a mysterious and often absent mother who's only known as the Lady. And so the Lady sends her to the capital of the global empire of Iritzar, which is where this story takes place, to compete with other children to be chosen as one of the Crown Prince's Council of 11. And if she's picked, she will be joined with the other council members through what's called the Ray, which is like a bond that's just like deeper than blood. And so that closeness is irresistible to Rasai, and she has always wanted to belong somewhere. So that bond is irresistible to her. But the Lady, which is her mother, has other plans, including a magical wish that Tarasai is compelled to obey, kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust. But Tarasai won't stand by and just become someone else's pawn. The question is she strong enough to choose a path for herself? And we definitely find that out within this book. In terms of book covers, there's actually two different versions depending on which region that you live in or you have access to. So there's a US North America version, which I'll pop up here, which features a young woman surrounded by lots of blues, golds, and purples, and I believe reds as well. And she has a crown on, and it almost looks like a cartoon. Based on this story, you can assume that is our main character, Tarasai. It looks very young in terms of the audience that it's appealing to, and just again in terms of the brightness, in terms of that character and how that character looks on the cover. And then there's also the UK version, which features two lions, it looks like a male and a female lion, that are circling around each other around this black figure. It almost seems like the figure is coming out from the shadows or coming out from the ashes, so to speak. And you can't really tell or discern from the cover immediately who this character is supposed to, or who this person is supposed to symbolize in this story. It reads a little bit more mature, even though again, this book is billed as a YA book and it's kind of appealing more to that 12 to 17-year-old crowd, but it does read a bit mature. When I first read this book, or first picked up the book, I obviously had the access to the US/North America version, and I really liked it. I thought that it was bright, it was commanding. When you think about stories that are set in West Africa, you just kind of naturally gravitate towards more loud, bright colors. And so I actually really thought that the US cover is beautiful. However, when I actually read the story, I kind of thought that the UK version fitted a little bit more, just because, without spoiling it, because you don't know exactly who the person is in that UK version, it almost lends itself to being either Tarasai or the Lady. It could be either one of them. And so again, without spoiling it, once you read about the story and you learn about the Lady's history and her background, it kind of makes sense that it could be either one of the two. So after reading it, I really enjoyed the idea that the UK version fit the story a little bit better. And since I picked it up from my library, I don't have the book anymore, so I do want to actually have it and put it on my bookshelf, and I probably will see if I can find the UK version and have that on my bookshelf instead of the US version. Those are just my 2 cents. I think both of them are beautiful, but that's just my preference. So there were a couple of key themes within this book, and this book really, packs a punch. There's a lot of things to unpack here. So we have a book where you think you're just gonna get that classic girl destined to kill a boy that she loves, and she has this internal battle that she's fighting against, and it's such an overused literary trope. But instead we get much more than that. We're learning about different cultures and traditions, and even within this mythical West Africa, you're getting multiple cultures and traditions within that. We're also getting to understand, to learn about the Raybearers, about past and present. We're understanding patriarchy and the fragility of ego and how destructive that can be. We're unpacking inequality, we're unpacking prejudice, and we're understanding the deep bonds of friendship and ultimately that basic human desire of us just wanting to belong. I think that Terasai is definitely someone that a lot of people can identify with. Obviously, she had a very rough upbringing in that, some of her caretakers and the people that were around her, the limited amount of people that were around her, were scared to touch her, were scared to interact with her. And so even simple things as like a hug or a kiss or just, intimacy in terms of touch and, feeling in that way was removed from her. She wasn't allowed to have that. And although that's an extreme, she decided she wanted to be able to have connection with people. And, in this world that we're living in when it comes to, the pandemic, you can identify with that and not necessarily having that connection right now for a time, but still wanting to have that, still yearning for that, still wanting to be able to belong, wanting to identify with a group and feel like these are my people. I think that's something that a lot of people definitely desire as humans, and being able to see how Terasai not only longed for it, but it was also able to make such beautiful friendships, and not just relationships, obviously, but true, genuine relationships. The idea of a ray that bonds you to one another to the point that that is almost, that relationship is incomplete without both sides, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I think we can all identify with Terasai in that desire to want to belong and always seeking out a place in the world and to find our people. So in these reviews, what I typically do is break down who I consider to be my favorite character. If you have watched The Girl with the Louding Voice, I'll leave that link up here. You'll see how, I have a certain character, maybe a supporting character that is my favorite. But in this book, I don't think that I actually had a favorite. I think that that's because of the way that the author actually wrote this story, the writing in which she was able to weave through her writing that there is one connection that all of these people have, and it makes you almost see them as different sides of one thing, if that makes sense. So there's not really there's a distinction in each of the characters, but there's not a distinction. I don't know how to describe it, but it's such a beautiful story. I will say that I enjoyed how, even though there's 11 people within the Crown Prince's council, the author only decides to develop certain characters, and so not all 11. So I appreciated that she just chose a select few in order to kind of build up who they are and what their character is in relation to Terasai. So I appreciated that. But again, I don't think that there is one character that I can just say was my favorite. I will say that the character that I thought was really sweet was Kira, just in the way they were all really cute. I mean, it's a young adult, so it's kind of like little things like romance or whatever, like how it was written, like this person blushed and like that sort of thing. That was cute, whatever. But I think Kira was just kind of just her character in terms of her being a healer in the way that she healed people. Her gift, so to speak, that brought her onto the council was really beautiful, and I would almost want to meet her in person. All of them are really great characters, but I love the way that the author wrote that character. If I had to choose, maybe Kira, but again, they're all beautiful in their own way. And so I really love the character development for this book and the way that the author wrote it. So I rated this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and it deserved every star and every half star that I gave it. I think that for a debut book, this book, Jordan definitely knocked this one out the park. You have sci-fi written in a way that is really relatable for not only young adults, but also grown people. I'm definitely not within that young adult age bracket, but I was able to read it and not feel like, this is childish or this is something that I can't really connect with. Again, there's so many themes that we discussed, you know, patriarchy, ego, a lot of life lesson that can be learned, that it is just a well-rounded book for, I think, a debut novel. Definitely a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, and so that is it. That is my review of Raybearer #1 by Jordan Ifueko. I hope that I'm saying that right. I really gotta, I need to like, I don't know. I gotta figure out how to say these names because this is really embarrassing. Like, really embarrassing. But I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, definitely give me a thumbs up. Guys, give me a thumbs up and let me know what you thought about this review, or if you've read this book, what you thought about the book. I would love to get more engagement from you guys and really understand what it is that you are thinking and if I'm on par with how you experience this particular book. If you haven't subscribed already, definitely subscribe down below and also hit the notification bell so that you're notified of every single time that I upload, and would love to have you part of the tribe. All right, so that is it. I will see you in my next one. Bye.